marketing service agencies just seem to be really bad at marketing themselves. It's a
mystery.
It's a mystery, isn't it? So here's an interesting question for you. So marketing service agencies just seem to be really bad at marketing themselves. It's just a mystery.
It is. It's one of the great mysteries. How can we operate in marketing and be so bad at actually having a point of view and sharing that?
And so this is very relevant right now. So the last few weeks we've been talking about, particularly about media agencies, we've been talking about just low reputation. We talked about the results of our recent Global Media Transparency report, which showed trust in media agencies is, well, we think now hopefully hit a floor and can only get better. And then last week we're talking about the news that the Department of Justice in the US is now investigating or issued subpoenas to media agencies, again kind of keeps them under the spotlight. So it's hugely challenged in terms of reputation. Thought it might be helpful to just think about agency brands and actually where do they go from here? How can they repair themselves?
That's right. So is it terminal, right? That's
yes, what do you do?
Yes, exactly.
So as an agency CEO then,
let's
just imagine, what do you do when you're under huge threat now, potentially because your reputation is pretty low, if you believe the reporting and the insight, trust is low, but we work in an industry where we're championing brands and the importance of brands and having a point of view and all that kind of stuff. So what do you do?
Well, the first thing is that the status quo isn't an option. You can't not do anything. So I think for most agency CEOs, they've got two alternatives. They can either go all out with a new brand, with the creation of a new brand, which is clean and transparent, or you can polish your existing brand. I think those are the only two things that they can do.
And so some examples of that. So we've seen in recent history new brands being created. So Hearts and Science, I think, was one. What else do we have? Oh, Essence, not so new, but I mean it's new in terms of WPP's acquisition of it. So it was positioning as a media agency. It's kind of new. Then we've got the rebranding bit, like
so you've got Wavemaker. And then Spark, the Publicis agency, following their kind of restructuring. So these are existing established agency networks that have just been adapted and rebranded. But the question is that working?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure those new brands kind of really land because, and the problem is because they can't market themselves very well. It's all well and good having a positioning, whether it be Hearts and Science or, I mean, Essence, let's say, maybe they've kind of rooted in something. Hearts and Science, Wavemaker, Spark, and others haven't really communicated what that brand is. So therefore, it either it just absorbs the legacy of what went before it, or even worse, it doesn't mean anything. And I think the risk. One of the big risks with Wavemaker, and I think we talked about this a year ago when it came out, the challenge is you're taking two distinct businesses, MEC and Maxis here, which, they're still relatively kind of vanilla agencies in the way that many kind of large media network agencies are, but they did have something that was distinctive. You don't just get to put two brands together and think that it makes three. That's not how brands work. I mean, we've talked before the example, and I think I've shared with some other people. You can't take Coke and Pepsi, put it in a purple can, and enhance the meaning of what those two brands are. You don't get an added benefit. You just go back to square one. You have to start again.
But isn't that such a missed opportunity? Right. I mean, if you're an agency CEO and you're trying to wash yourself from all the legacy issues that are currently going on, you have one opportunity to define a new proposition, to go to market with a new, fresh narrative, with all of the commercial backing that you have as being part of a massive holding group, to really make a difference. Yet in those examples, they just haven't. They haven't really gone as far as they could have done.
Exactly. And so just to be clear, this is not specifically about Wavemaker. It's just an example. There's many other examples. It's used to illustrate the point, which is media agencies. And bear in mind, we see agencies every day of the week. In small environments, large, big presentations on behalf of clients. We're in agencies all the time. They are really hard to differentiate, and our theory on that is that they are somewhat vanilla by design. And what we mean by that is media agencies are large organizations. They service many, many different categories and many types of different advertisers around the world. And so therefore they are either very chameleon-like, they'll adapt very quickly to a particular, a sports brand 1 minute, or a pharmaceutical business the next minute, and a financial services company, to try and be everything to everybody, which means that you're not really a brand. It's very difficult to create a brand that's so dynamic.
But you've never really needed to be when your entire commercial model is based on execution. Very lucratively. Yeah. Who cares whether you've got a point of view? Who cares whether you've got it's more the creative agencies that have historically had to have a very clearly defined creative perspective and point of view. The media agencies have never had to do that, but that's changing.
Yeah, because they're now under this threat.
Yeah.
And so perhaps the need for agency brands has never been greater, but perhaps the equity in media brands has never been lower. So that's the scale of the task. In terms of the marketing that we see, I mean, I think, we can be quite dismissive about some of the marketing that we've seen from agencies. It tends to follow really predictable patterns. I think you used the word merch. It's not marketing, it's merchandising.
Well, it is. I mean, what you can't fault the agencies for doing is spending a lot of money on creating...
Talking about themselves.
Yeah, but creating beautifully crafted pieces of kind of content stuff. But the problem is that there just isn't the clarity of point of view in it. You go through it and it looks amazing. It's like a coffee table book. But where's the insight? That's what I'm looking for. As a marketeer, I don't have the time to go through this stuff. What I'm looking for is something that will enable me to be smarter in my decision making. Yeah. And it's so rare to actually find that within agency marketing collateral.
It is. And we get sent a huge amount. I mean, we obviously receive almost everything, I guess, that agencies produce, both in terms of physical copy, tons of kind of electronic content. The thing that always kind of bugs me, I think, is like a seasonal thing, which if you're in agency marketing, just really have a think about this, is you all go to CES, you all go to Mexico, you all go to Cannes, and then you all send a 3-page PDF like 4 days later saying our view of CES or Mexico or Cannes, and everybody's got this talking about exactly the same things, and none of them have any rooted in any point of view. It's just it's like a guide to CES. I don't need to do that. I was either there and I saw it, or I wasn't, and I've probably got an idea of kind of what's going on. That is a massive miss. It just highlights the lack of the point of view, and I think that's really the thing. If we're saying that media agency brands are under the spotlight and challenged, and maybe the reputation, therefore the equity in those brands is pretty low, the only way out of that pit is to be different. Yeah. And you can't be different by producing a nicer book. Yeah. You have to have a point of view. There can be no repair to agency brands without some kind of action. Like, you're either one side of that line or the other. You either want to be vanilla by design, fine, carry on, or you want to have a brand and invest in that brand, and therefore you've got to stand for something.
Absolutely. And if there has ever been a greater time for that as an opportunity, it is now. Yeah. Because doing nothing is not an option.
No, and be brave. Right, good week 4.
Talking about brands,
yes,
it's been a good week for Apple. So Interbrand have published their top 100 brands.
Are there any media agencies on that list?
No, not in the top 100. Apple is number 1, Google number 2, and then it goes down. But actually, interestingly, Coca-Cola, the old school brand, still sits there at number 5. Really? But Apple, the most valuable brand in the world, again.
Good, okay.
So bad week 4.
Bad week, it was really the week before last, but we got so excited last week talking about the Department of Justice, which was a pretty bad week for lots and lots of people. But at the same time, in fact, the same day that the DOJ, it was reported that the DOJ had issued subpoenas on agencies, Facebook revealed that they'd been subject to a major security hack. It's actually one of the largest information hacks I think ever take place in terms of kind of consumer data. So far estimating 50 million accounts were affected. Facebook have been talking publicly about it, so they've kind of come out. It took them a few days to kind of, you know, build up momentum as usual. They're pretty slow in terms of reacting to this. And the message coming through is, oh, we're just as surprised as you are. That doesn't really play out. They don't seem to have a grip on their PR very well. But not a good week for them. Again, another brand severely challenged with trust issues.
That's right.
That really needs to kind of dig itself out of the swamp. But unfortunately for them, you know, I think we've still got some way to go downwards. Some bad stuff's happening. Right, before we go, so question of the week. Does agency marketing suck?
Yes, no, whatever.
Excellent, good. Well, that's your media snack for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.
See you next time.